Good afternoon. I'm sitting here together with Paulo Maló, known to most people and maybe most known for the innovation of All-on-4. However, there are a few other things you have innovated too. But let me start now to try to get a personal background here, Paulo. I understand I associate you with Portugal, so I assume you grew up in some of the suburbs outside Lisbon. Is that correct?
No, I was born in Angola, in Africa, and my father was a farmer and a professional hunter. So I was brought up in this environment of farming, professional hunting, until 1975, when there was a civil war in Angola and we fled. We had to move out. So I went to South Africa, to Cape Town. And then I finished my school in Cape Town. I did my first years of university at UCT, University of Cape Town. And then in 1982, I went to Portugal to finish my medical studies. And then later I went to dentistry and then got my PhD.
So now you've come to Portugal. You came, of course, to study dentistry immediately. That was your aim, wasn't it?
Actually, I came to study medicine because I was a medical student. And my aim was neurosurgery. And so dentistry was not at all on my objectives. But my uncle is quite a famous sportsman and dentist in Portugal. I stayed at his house. And every morning he would tell me, why do you want to be a neurosurgeon? Every night, why do you want to be a neurosurgeon? So eventually, one day, in my last year of medical school, I decided to change to dental.
When would you say that you sort of came on with the idea about All-on-4?
Yeah, well, the idea of All-on-4 actually came on the sequence of immediate load single teeth. So in 1990, straight out of school, 1 year after school, I had some cases that I felt that I could do immediate load on single teeth and small bridges. And I was quite surprised. I mean, surprised, of course, in those days, that I had really good results. In fact, I had 100% success rate. So what happened was that I contacted Nobel Biocare. In those days, it was Nobel Pharma.
Yes, it was, yes.
And Bo Rangert was an engineer working with the Nobel Biocare.
Indeed.
And he got in touch with me. I explained what I was doing. And then I flew up to Gothenburg and I explained what I had done. And he said, well, Paulo, this is fantastic because, nobody has done this before. There is some people doing some implants and loading and not loading, but not as a single one or a small bridge. So I said, okay, fine. So what shall we do? And he said, we should publish. And we tried to publish, but we never actually could publish because no editor would accept for publication. They said that was something that was crazy. It was few cases, did not make any sense to publish. There was just luck that the implant survived, so they would not publish.
But if we're now looking at I'm coming back to All-on-4 again, and I understand that you started off in the mandible with very tilted implant on the sides, and then were there straight implants in the middle?
The first case I did actually was the first case I did in the mandible, or maybe the first cases, maybe 3 or 4. It was actually 5 implants parallel. I started like that, following the Brunner mark.
Yes.
The only difference is that I immediately load them.
Right.
That was the only difference. So I immediately load them, but it was parallel implants. And then I thought that maybe it would make sense if I incline the implants, the posterior ones. By inclining the implant, I would reach further posterior in the bridge, so that I would, even working between the two mental nerves, I would probably reach the molar.
So if you place the implant, do you allow me to show here like this then,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
Above the mental foramina,
exactly.
And then you come much further back
further
here.
Back.
That's precisely.
So,
yes.
So basically, I would reduce the cantilever
right.
to 1 tooth or even no tooth.
I see. Because you didn't need it any longer because you had the support further back in the mandible.
But by inclining the posterior implants, I could not have 3 implants in the middle. 5 could not fit there. Because by inclining, basically I had to remove 1 implant to have only 2.
Of course.
So that end up with 2 implants parallel and 2 implants inclined about 45 degrees posterior. In 1996, I did the first All-on-4 in the maxilla. And I was very afraid.
And that was a case with little bone, I suppose?
There was a
small
case,
bone volume?
Exactly. That was a case that we did not have bone posterior to the first premolar.
I see.
And I inclined the implant in the same way. That case was done together with Bo Rengert. He was at my side. And we did this case. And the implant came out in the second premolar and we immediate load. So that was the first All-on-4 maxilla in 1996.
So the role of Bo Rengert, because he, to my recollection, was not a clinician, did he calculate the forces that were put on your implants?
Exactly.
That's what he did.
Exactly. I see. He was a key person in my life.
Right.
Bo Rengert was a key person in my life. Not only we were really good friends, but we worked very well together. And basically he did 2 things to me. He helped me calculating the forces on the biomechanic forces, and that we could see that it would work. But besides that, he gave me the let's say, by his presence and by incentivizing, he gave me the confidence to move forward for the maxilla, because I was not so sure that the maxilla would work.
And with all that, and working together with the Nobel employee, Nobel Biocare probably it has been renamed to now, they were enthusiastic, were they?
So what happened was that I constantly, every year, was bringing to Nobel Biocare attention. And in fact, I tried other companies as well, competitors, and all of them rejected the idea of having implants inclined, only 4 implants, immediate load. All of them rejected the idea. And then when Ilian Canepa came to Nobel Biocare, then Bo Rengert said, let's try again coming up with this, that maybe the new CEO or president will accept this. So I was brought to Ilian Canepa's office. I went through everything. Bo Rengert was there as well. And then Ilian asked Bo, what do you think about this? What do you think about this method? Do you think this is good? And Bo, of course, said, yeah, I've been following this for years. This is incredible because this we can avoid a lot of bone grafts. We can do immediate load, and this is a very safe method. So then Ilian said, so why don't we, start promoting this and move forward with this?
So Nobel Biocare was the very first company that really showed interest, although it took a few years.
Yes, it took about 6 or 7 years.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
No,
and then she said, why don't we promote this? Why don't we move forward? Bo Rengert said that it was tradition of Nobel Biocare inviting other dentists, experts to see any new product, and everybody had said that this was not a good idea. So
and that was so now the company had decided it was good, but the colleagues didn't like it. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, was that.
I see.
The same thing happened when we did the immediate load single teeth. The colleagues said it would not work, and the company said yes. And with All-on-4, the colleagues also said it does not work, and the company said yes, and then we moved forward.
But here we have now suddenly very obliquely put in tilted implants, right, in the mandible and then later in the maxilla. What about the prosthodontics? Could they handle those in the beginning?
Well, you see, in those days, already exist the 17-degree abutment and the 30-degree abutment already existed with the Brunner mark.
I see.
The 30-degree abutment was not invented by me. It was Brunner mark's invention.
you could use an ordinary Brunner mark or a Nobel abutment.
Exactly.
I see.
So I used those abutments in order to compensate the angulation. Otherwise, the bridge would not fit. So by inclining 45 degrees and using the abutment of 30 degrees, I only had 15 degrees, and that is okay because the multi-unit abutments allow that discrepancy.
Exactly.
So I could angle up to 45 degrees without the necessity of a new abutment by using the 30-degree abutment. And so therefore, the All-on-4 was actually born.
And when did you first say All-on-4?
When we came up with this idea, and Nobel Biocare, it was already Nobel Biocare in those days. Nobel Biocare said, "Okay, we will buy this system, and we will market it." But she said, "We need to find." Ilian Canepa said, "We need to find a name for this system."
Yeah, I see. So that's when you found the.
Yes. So what I did, that day I went dinner at the port in Gothenburg.
Indeed, yes.
In the port in Gothenburg, we went to a fish restaurant.
Right.
With Bo Rengert. And we were at this restaurant, and there was a piece of paper on the table.
Yes.
And then I said to Bo, "We need to find a name that means something. I do not want a crazy name or something like that." So I wrote down, what does this actually do? So I wrote down, all the teeth on only 4 implants.
Oh.
Right? So I wrote this long phrase, and obviously you cannot name something like that.
No, of course.
So then Bo said, "Yeah, but that's too long. You need to cut." Of course, you need to cut. So let's start cutting. So I start cutting words, and from all the teeth on only 4 implants, it came up on All-on-4.
In your work, with your innovations, the ordeals you had to, although it was much later and implants were now accepted, it was like this, you see, changing the recommendations of those days was not that easy. And did you ever meet with Prima Brennemark?
Yes, I did. When at the time of immediate load, single teeth and small bridges, Bo Rengert, I could not publish. Bo Rengert could not publish either. And Bo Rengert fixed me a meeting with Professor Brennemark. And I went to his office, and we sat down, and Professor Brennemark said, "Oh, hello, you are the young man." And I don't remember what age I was, but I was
younger than he was.
30, but definitely younger than him. So he said to me, "So you are the young man." So I kind of, you remember this much better than me. He was a figure that kind of put you on your knees, kind of. He was very, very strong approach. And I was a kid, so when he said, you are the young man, I thought, he's going to clap me now, because I'm doing something stupid. So I said, "Yes, I think I am." So he said, "So you are doing this thing of immediate loading the implant, right?" I said, "Yes, I am." And he said to me, "But you know that's not correct. You should wait. You should wait for the implant to be successfully osseointegrated and this and that." I said, "Yes, I know." And then Bo Rengert said, "Yes, but this is what we have. This is the cases." And he said, "Although I do not agree with this, I think you should publish." That's what he said. And then because of him, we managed to publish the first let's say article in 1998. At the Nobel Biocare magazine, which was called Talk of the Times.
Right.
And the editor was Lisbeth Dvarsla. Right. And Professor Brennemark called her and said, "I want this article on this magazine." And she placed it. And it was the first time that an article on immediate load, single teeth and small bridge came public.
Indeed.
It was not in a scientific magazine, it was in the Nobel Biocare.
Right. So the news may not have spread to scientists in the same manner as it would if you had published in a proper journal. Since then, I assume you have published a number of papers in proper journals, in peer-reviewed journals. But that was impossible at the time.
It was impossible at the time. They would not accept. Yeah. But immediately, in 2000, I published on a scientific journal with 3 years of follow-up from 1997.
And that was in one of our major journals.
Yes, it was.
So then it came out for the first time in publication.
But at the same time, Professor Eriksson also published with a 2-year follow-up.
That's right.
So here his paper became more visible than mine, and I understand that because he's a big figure. I was just a kid dentist, and that's the truth, But the fact is that he published in 2000 with 2 years follow-up. I published in 1998, and I published in 2000 with 3 years follow-up. But somehow, many dentists around the world think that he was the first to publish on immediate load single teeth.
And also Schulman, Snitman, they were very early
They
too.
were very early, but
in
it was
America.
different.
But I mean, that is the situation. I think that we were all, Brennemark had a great ordeal, of course, when he came with his implants back in 1965. No dentist believed in it, right?
Yes.
And therefore, I think he took once he had the breakthrough in Toronto, for instance, when the international market had opened up for Nobel and their implants, then Brennemark took a very conservative attitude. Yeah. Understandably, but many people followed suit, and there were for quite some time no real challenges to the concept. But then people started like you did. They also started in North America, by doing things differently, right? Yeah. After some time, people had some courage. You had a great lot of courage, and then you even dared to go to Brennemark with it, I must say.
And I was called a cowboy.
Oh, I see.
The cowboy dentist, because I dared to do immediate load single teeth. I dared to do this thing called the All-on-4, and I dared to do this implant, which was basically an implant that was forcing the bone.
So he literally called you a cowboy?
Yeah. Oh, they were calling me a cowboy. They were calling things like All-on-4, all on the floor.
Maybe in Angola sometimes you had cows. I don't know. Thinking.
No, the first time they called me a cowboy actually was in the United States.
I see.
Yes, I finished a lecture in a small group of people, chosen by Nobel Biocare, maybe 40, 50 people. And one of the dentists in the room said that I was a cowboy. Because, I was a cowboy because all these things of immediate load and putting pressure on the bone, these things could not work. We have people today all over the world that still think that All-on-4 is something stupid, that they prefer to graft and then wait 6 months and then wait another year and so forth. But they don't understand. They don't understand that you should not graft a 90-year-old person. But they're also not doing these cases.
I think that even if you say there are always one or two persons who would never agree about anything, with time you have, I think, showed to people that this works and is a very interesting, I don't want to call it a novelty because it is 25 years old at the least, right? Yeah. But still, in people's mind, they may not know about the first few years, but that when you used it.
It is obvious today that All-on-4 is used all over the world. There's no way that you can deny that this is a tool in our toolbox. It's a tool in our toolbox.
And now we are coming a little bit towards the end, so I have to ask you then, you know this because I assume that you are traveling a bit, is that correct?
Unfortunately, I travel a lot.
And you find that All-on-4 is used in Australia?
Yes, I actually just arrived from Australia, yeah.
In China?
In China, I work a lot, yes. But not now, because China now, because of the pandemic, is closed.
Even in Angola?
In Angola, I also work, yes.
Okay.
Angola, because it's my home country, and I do have a clinic and a house there. So I do go there. I do not go to Angola to work. I go to Angola because I need my peace. I need to see nature, African pure nature, to relax, to rethink my life. But because I have a clinic there, I take advantage and I work a little bit to pay my air ticket.
Dr. Maló, I thank you very much indeed for having shared all these things, how things were in the beginning and how they came to be when you had all the clinical results. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Thomas.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.